Hi, I'm Regina Lang, director of the VAF Industry Insight Panel Series, and we're back again. That's great. I think is go live on Facebook, so it's perfect. So welcome everyone again. This panel is Creators Making It in Vancouver, co-presented by BIPOC TV and Trim. We begin by acknowledging the land that we are broadcasting at is the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and First Nations, as well as the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anasalobe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. So, and this panel is a conversation with diverse creators to talk about working in the industry and the journey of making it in Vancouver. So this program is sponsored by the public funder, Canada Media Fund, and the industry sponsor, Canadian Media Producer Association. It's also supported by multiple community organizations, such as Exploratia, Vancouver Asian Heritage Month Society, DOXA, Story Money Impact, Vancouver Short Film Festival, Vancouver International Film Festival, and Quarantine Capsule, QQ. And now I would like to introduce Barbara Lee, our founder and president of the Vancouver Asian Film Festival, to say a few words.
Thank you, Regina, and so happy to see Christopher, Johnny, and Corey here for today's panel. I just wanted to say that one of VAF is turning 25 this year, and one of the core values of VAF is that we believe storytelling is a cornerstone and a very effective tool to combat anti-Asian racism. Representation matters, and being seen and heard matters. So that is a very important goal and mandate of what VAF does. So what we did is we launched Eliminate Hate a year ago when there was a rise in anti-Asian racism. And one of our projects that we are very proud of and that is out right now is the Reclaim Your Name project. We are asking people to send us videos, TikToks, and IG posts about them thinking about their name and if they had to or felt that they had to adopt a westernized name to fit in, to feel like they needed to survive and thrive. So we wanted to hear that story, and we wanted people to just unpack what that means to them, because we think it's a very good starting point for these difficult conversations about anti-Asian racism. And if you did not take a westernized name, then if you have an ethnic name, were there any times that people mispronounced it? Are there feelings around that? So we want to hear everybody's story, and it's a very inclusive project. So we know that other marginalized groups have also felt like they had to westernize their names. So we hope to hear from you. Come to our Eliminate Hate page, and VAF will do a posting of that, and send us your stories, because VAF is about storytelling. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barb. So now I'll bring in our moderator for this panel, Christopher Yip. So Christopher is a Chinese-Canadian writer, director based in Toronto, a child of immigrants that his works look at sexuality, belonging, and love through a district diaspora lens. He had been a long-time lead volunteer and moderator at BIPOC TV and Film. So Christopher will tell us a little bit more about BIPOC TV and Film. Let's welcome Christopher.
Thanks, Regina. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris, and I'm here on behalf of BIPOC TV and Film. We are a volunteer-run grassroots organization advocating for the representation of Black, Indigenous, and people of color in Canada's TV and film industry. And today we're happy to partner with VAF for today's conversation with our guests for Asian Pacific Island Heritage Month. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guests. So first we have Corey Liu. Corey is a proud alum of the Bell Media Diverse Screenwriters Program and Pacific Screenwriters Program. He's an amazing screenwriter who's written on Mysticons, The Next Step, and a handful of animated shows. He's a story editor on Family Law. He's writing on a show for about K-pop. He has Range People, and his half-hour horror comedy called Horny Lover Boys, that's the best part, won the CBC Creative Relief Fund. Our second guest is Johnny Tesoro. Johnny has been working in the animation industry for 21 years with Bardell Entertainment, 12 of those years, and he works on little-known shows like Rick and Morty. What else here? Teen Titans Go. Uh, if you watch TV, you've probably seen his work. And right now, uh, he on top of his busy production schedule at Bardell, Johnny is a lab supervisor for Capilano University's 2D animation program. And Johnny was born in the Philippines and raised in Canada and has strong ties to ethnic roots. So let's invite our two guests in. Hey, Corey.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So, welcome. I want to start out by asking the two of you, can you please give me the Corey and Johnny origin story? I mean, separately. But let's go with Corey first. Can you give me kind of like the script notes, the Wikipedia entry of how you got into the film industry?
Okay. Yeah. So I about 10 years. Oh my God, 10 years ago now. I took a film program, a screenwriting program at Vancouver Film School, and I graduated from that program. And then I did this program called the Bell Media Diverse Screenwriters Program. And every year of that program, it ran for about 7 years. They chose one person to get an internship, a story internship. So that year, I was lucky. I got the internship. And then, I was staffed on a show, and I made a few connections from there. And then I got staffed on a few kids shows, like they're like a range of live action and animation. And then there was sort of this like 1 year period of drought where I wasn't getting any work. So I flew back to Vancouver. I was in Toronto at that point, and I flew back to Vancouver to do a master's program in children's literature at UBC. And so I did that program. And there was this other, I've used the word program 7 times now. But during that time, there was this other program that they're running called the Pacific Screenwriters Program. And it was their first year doing it. And it's still running now. And the point of that is just to try and find screenwriting talent on the West Coast in Canada. And so I got into that program, and I did the interview, and like just a day after the interview, one of the interviewers was like, "Hey, so you seem pretty cool. Like, would you be interested in being joining the story department of the show called Family Law? It's currently in development." And so I did the interview. I was a huge fan of the showrunner. Her name is Susan Nielsen, because she writes a lot of like young adult middle grade novels. And so like honestly, like I don't think I would have said yes, because I didn't feel like I had the chops to like write for a legal drama, because there was nothing in my past to suggest that I could. But I just really wanted to meet her, and I tell her that to this day, and she still doesn't believe me. But I did the interview. I got the job, and then so I had a lot of fun on the first season. Then they got renewed for a second season, and they promoted me. And then it was interesting because Susan is very she's very active on social media, so she would always tweet pictures of me on set, and it was just I suspect that had something to do with my name getting out there, because after that, then it seemed like some other live action shows were just aware that there was a queer Asian writer out there, and I think that they were some people were looking for that. So so it was just like a bunch. It's a very messy. Yeah, it was a very messy trajectory, but that's how I ended up here. And there was a lot of luck involved, luck and good timing.
Yeah. And talent. I mean, you're where you are because of your hard work. We're all Asian.
Yeah, sure, I guess. Yeah. I know, like as you're reading my bio, you said like an amazing screenwriter. It's like I sure hope I didn't write that in my own bio.
No, come on. I was reading between the lines.
Oh, you were.
This is another Asian thing. Everyone's kind of like, oh, don't worry, no.
Here, you take the bill. Yeah, no.
Good job. Yeah. But thank you, Corey. So we'll go to Johnny next.
Hi, everybody. How far back in the origin story do you want me to go? You want to talk about how my parents met, or
just like even before that, like the dawn of time?
Okay, well,
But
there
no.
was a big bang. No, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
For me, getting into, maybe we'll talk about the how I got into the industry. I actually kind of took a circuitous route. I've always kind of drawn as a little boy. I've always been a fan of art and comic books. But as a as some of you might know who are watching, and maybe even in this room, realize that, if you're Asian, then most parents, especially of my parents' generation, they only thought that the only true professions were the traditional ones: doctor, lawyer, engineer, nurse. For especially for Filipino traditions, it's a lot of nurses in my ethnicity, in my ethnic group. So they thought, well, why don't you become a doctor? And I remember once when they had indoctrinated this idea of me becoming a doctor, I was more interested in making a placard that said Dr. Jonathan Tesoro out of cardboard, out of an old shoebox, and putting it on my desk. And I was so proud of that, more so than actually following the dream of going into medicine, because I like the art more. And I thought it was going to be very disappointing for them to know that their son is an artist and not necessarily a scientist. So I actually went to university, not for art. I went and studied psychology and sociology, and uh, they were happy that I was in university, but they were kind of like, hey, when are you going to go into the medical field? But when I finally told them, like, look, I want to go to art school, I want to go into college, they were surprisingly supportive, and I was shocked that they were like, yeah, just do what you love. You've always drawn. We've always known you've been an artist your whole life. So luckily, I think my parents were very supportive of me going into animation. But by then, I had already had a few other careers before going into animation. So there was kind of a struggle for me to fit in a little bit, being the older guy in the studio, because most of the trajectory of most animators is to go right from high school into animation school and then start working in the industry. So the average age usually is in the early 20s, and I was already 30. So I felt like I was kind of behind the curve. Luckily, being Asian, we don't raisin, so I looked relatively young. So I fit in okay. But yeah, I started off in the animation department. I went to school here in Vancouver at Capilano College, now university, which is now where I teach as well. But that was quite some time ago, and during that time, I started off in animation. I've always kind of stayed in animation as a character animator, and I've always really loved storytelling from my young age. So during this early time of my career, I focused on pitching a lot of my own ideas and cartoons. I had a fellow screenwriter that I would partner with, and we would kind of try and pitch to places like Cartoon Network and Adult Swim and things of these nature. But pitching is a full-time job, and being a person who likes to have his security and stability, it was important for me to sort of work in the industry. So I kind of let go of pitches. But eventually, I ended up working my way up into this role that I'm in now, where I oversee other much more talented artists than myself, fulfill the visions of other much more talented people than me. I realized that I'm a decent artist, but I think my real forte is kind of managing people and choosing the right projects for our studio. I think that's where my real strength lies. So those who can't teach, I guess, and those who can't teach manage. I think maybe that's the part of the Asian personality, is to downplay one's own attributes and not acknowledge myself, but acknowledge the team. But it's very true, though. I am surrounded on a day-to-day basis by super talented people, and it's really an honor to work with everyone. And we get to work on some really cool shows. Like, I know you mentioned Rick and Morty and Teen Titans Go, shows that we were actually been working on for, oh my God, it's 9 years now. We're in season 7 of Teen Titans Go and season 5 of Rick and Morty. We're just almost wrapping up. I know it doesn't seem like it makes sense. 5 years, 9 years, like 5 seasons, 9 years. But usually every season it takes over a year to produce. So that's why it takes quite a long time. I think I'm rambling now, so I'm going to shut up and let
No,
Christopher
no,
ask
no.
his next question.
All good. Thank you, Danny. That you brought up a great point, which is kind of the parent connection. So I wanted to ask Corey a follow up. Did your and I think it's very common, and especially for young Asian folks who are thinking of getting into the industry. What was your parents' response?
It's so yeah. I was as Johnny was talking, it it made me think about when I got my first job with Mysticons, and it's an animated show with Nelvana, and it was on Nickelodeon for a bit. My my mom, well, she doesn't really. I don't think she completely understood what it is that I do for a living because I remember. So yeah, my boss, Sean Hara, like one of my it was. I had a great time on that show, and he's just amazing. For my birthday, he got me a framed picture of my favorite character on Mysticons, and I was hanging in my room, and then my mom was showing my relatives the picture of the character, and she's like, "That's my son." Drew that. He animated that show. And I'm like, Mom, that's not what I do. And it's just like, how many people have you been telling, like how many of our aunts and uncles have you been telling, that I'm an animator? And then the thing, I can't correct her because then it's like I made her out to be a liar. So now I think like everyone like on her side of the family just thinks that I'm an animator. But yeah, I don't think it's interesting because I don't think a lot of Asians know that a lot of Asians from my mom's generation knows that screenwriting is an option or that's the thing. It's interesting, but I think like I remember they didn't want me to be a doctor. They gave up on any dream of me becoming that. Like it was very clear in high school and university that I was not headed in that direction. But I think that they thought that I was going to become like an English professor because I really liked reading and I was an English major. And one day I told them, Mom, I don't want to be an English professor. And she's like, why? That's such a flourishing, flourishing business, which it isn't. But and I don't know. I tried to explain to them film school and what screenwriting was. I thought at the time that my mom understood what it was. But the thing is, like, they didn't get what it was, but they still supported me. And I think that's really amazing. Like they had some vague sense that I wanted to do something in TV. And I up until that point, I didn't show, like, I'd never written a screenplay. Like I wrote like a few, like some prose, some plays in undergrad, and like some profs liked it, but I'd never gotten anything public. Like there was nothing to suggest that I could certainly make a living out of that. But for what they like they were very supportive of me moving to Vancouver and doing this weird thing that they didn't understand. So I don't know. Like I think that's. Yeah, and that's really amazing, I think. I don't know. I'm going to text my mom after this and tell her thank you. But yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question, Chris?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think it's common for folks who don't work in the industry, even if they aren't, Asian uncles and aunties, to kind of be mystified by the whole process. But I think it's funny that you brought it up. It's kind of like, I think parents, more than anything else, they just want to know what they can tell the auntie uncle network, and it's hilarious in that way. Johnny, did you have anything to build off of that?
Oh, my mom thinks I just press a button on the keyboard called animate, and I walk away.
If only it were that easy. All right, so the next question we have, and this is for Johnny first. When was the moment you felt like you made it? And
Oh.
and if so, please describe. If not, what does making it look like to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I've made it. To me, I never really had big aspirations. I kind of fell into leadership roles. I kind of fell up the corporate ladder because I always I wanted a career where I could just be an artist and not be responsible for anyone except for myself, which is super selfish, I realize, but it was really liberating to just have a pure life of eating, sleeping, and drawing and animating, like that was my dream. To me, that was making it, because I had careers before entering the animation field. So to me, this was my dream job, to just go ahead and draw for a living, and so I had already felt like I'd made it. And then I was just, I was just always around. I was, not to downplay my abilities, but I always felt like I was kind of in the middling kind of level of performance on all animation teams. There was always people better, people worse than me. So I was in the middle. So I always got jobs. And then after a while, one of my very good friend, he got offered to go and be the animation director for Rick and Morty. And we were working on Teen Titans Go together. And our creative director says, well, we need to have somebody step into your role if you're going to go leave Teen Titans Go and go off to Rick and Morty. And then my buddy recommended me, and I was like, oh, great. I get to tell everybody, no way. I'm never wanting to be a leader. I don't want to make it. I feel like I've made it. And so the creative director hauled me into his office and said, we need you to do this animation supervisor gig. And I heard myself say yes. I didn't want to. I had prepared to say no. And then I heard myself say yes. And to me, when I say something, this is my own moral code of conduct, is if I say something, then I have to follow through. I don't know if you remember this movie with Anne Hathaway called Ella Enchanted, where she's cursed. Whenever anyone sort of says something, she has to do it. I said I would take it on, so I was like, oh damn, I said it out loud, so now I have to be an animation supervisor. And that's how my career has gone, to now becoming the head of the 2D animation department at Bardell, where we oversee really amazing work from all these wonderful artists. I've just said yes without, despite myself every single time. Like, I don't know if I can do it. I'm going to say yes anyway and see what happens. And I don't know if that has something to do with my Asian upbringing. My parents were very hardworking people. Mom and dad always had multiple jobs at the same time. And so they just said, do the best work you can. And, it's not just about making money, it's about doing a good job. And so that kind of code of conduct stuck with me. So if I said yes, then I couldn't just half-ass it. I had to do my utmost to do my best. And I always thought about supporting the team as opposed to fulfilling any dreams of myself. So when you ask if I've made it, I don't know if I really have. I just feel like I'm along for the ride, and someday someone's going to tap me in the shoulder and say, it's time for you to go. So I'm mentally prepared for the next step. But I just think that it's important to live in your present, say yes to things despite your fears, because you never know. Like, say yes anyway. So, come up with any excuses you want in your head, to say, well, I don't think I'm good enough, I don't think I'm ready. Say that to yourself, but then say yes out loud, and then follow through. Like, if you've said yes, then you're bound now. You have to do a good job. And I think if you have that kind of work ethic and that kind of ability to move forward, then you will succeed. Now, whatever success means to you, whatever metric you use for ambition, for me, it's always been like, if I fall off of this corporate ladder all the way to the bottom, I'm still going to be happy. I'll still be a success, because I'll still be making cartoons and I'll still be animating and drawing. So I have a pretty wide margin of success. So I guess the answer is yes. I feel like I've made it. I made it when I first started working in the industry. And so everything beyond then has just been extra gravy. I'll use a food metaphor because I love food. As you can see, I'm working in my kitchen.
Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, I think I think for folks who aren't in the industry yet, it really is a leap of faith, that first kind of jump in. But and I think that a lot of us, we operate out of scarcity mentalities, right? So it's difficult because, we're not connected to the industry. There's no kind of planned out, you write the bar for the film industry and then you're promoted to X and then you'll have a job for the rest of your career. It's a little more nebulous. But that said, when you do swing and when you do go for it, it's kind of like it is a risk, but you have so much to gain, So yeah, thank you, Johnny. Going to Corey, I wanted to ask, so do you feel like you've made it If yes, what point did that look like? If no, what does making it look like to you?
Yeah, I really like Johnny's answer. Like, I felt like it rang really true to my own experience as well. Like, I, yeah, like I remember when I just graduated from film school. I was querying a whole bunch of like screenwriting agents, probably the same ones that you queried, Chris. And I remember for one of them, they asked me like where I saw myself in 5 years. And I was like, yeah, I see myself as a script coordinator. I think that would be awesome. And that's not the answer that you should give to an agent, because like they want someone who like and they even said, they were like, well, yeah, we were a bit disappointed with your answer because we thought that you would want to say showrunner. And yeah, and I don't know how much of this, like I was saying before that like my own parents, like they didn't really understand the industry, and I think to a large extent like I kind of had that same like it was just this whole otherworldly thing that, and it was just like if I could just like break in, then that would be it, you know. And I knew that script coordinating was like the most junior position in the, so for those of you who don't know who are listening, there's script coordinating. Yeah, so in the story department, there's a script coordinator, and then there's like a junior story editor, and then a story editor, and then an executive story editor, and then you get into like the different producers. But and so like for me, like I always they teach you that in film school, script coordinating is like the entry position. And I think for me, it was just like, wow, if I could just get one of those. And I think, and so when I finally did get that, it was in a show in a development with the wonderful Rachel Schaefer. Yeah, it was like part of my job was like getting coffee for people and like, you know, filling water. And I think when my mom heard that, like, she wasn't very happy that I was doing like duties like that. And I kind of understand that just because of how much, you know, they sacrifice. And then you hear that your son is like, I get that. I do get that. But I didn't really care that they were just, you know, a little bit disappointed, just because it was like, well, this is what I want to do, right? And it was like, it wasn't just that. Like I was also in the room. I was taking notes. I was pitching stories. Like I was a part of this world, and I never imagined that I don't know. It was weird. Like I graduated from film school, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna, like, so few people do make it to the writer's room. Like I didn't think it would, like I would be one of them. Yeah, and then I think like Johnny's right. Like it's just then with you just start. You work really hard. You want to learn the craft. You go to work with like an open mind and with a lot of humility, knowing that you're not the best person in the room. And I think that as long as you have that philosophy, you will you'll rise. And it's just, but at that point, just like everything just feels like a bonus. Like so, like right now, like I'm on I don't know if I can reveal. Okay, no, I can't talk about that. But it's just, yeah. So like for instance, like when I got my first script with Mysticons, and Sean, I don't know if he's ever gonna hear this, but he very sweetly, like this is my birthday again. He dropped this envelope on my table, and it said it was a contract, and it said, Corey Liu, you get to write like episode 22, and it was just like this, and it was a huge moment, but weirdly, it was just like just being in that room was already huge, so it just felt like a nice bonus. But yeah, I don't know, but I see what Johnny means. It's like you feel both a sense of gratitude and like every day you feel this grace just because you get to do something that you love. But you're also, a part of you also feels, and I don't know how much of this is an Asian thing or just like a creative person thing, you also feel like imposter syndrome. And you're like, okay, so I've managed to trick everyone up until this point. And maybe the next one is like when they'll finally realize that I haven't earned my position. I don't think that feeling ever goes away either, but it's, yeah, so I guess it's both, right? Like you feel like you've made it, but you feel like you've made it just by being in this world, but you're kind of like in the back of your head, you're aware that like it might go away, and that's kind of scary. But I don't know. I think for the most part, though, it's just like, yeah, I feel so lucky. I feel so lucky to be here. And I don't, you know, 5 years ago, I said I didn't need to be a showrunner, and I still think that way. So, yeah.
You can do it. Just do it. Just be a showrunner, Corey. Like 100%. Yeah. 100%.
We believe in you, Corey.
You can do it.
You can do it. You
Yeah.
can do it, man.
I think like, especially for Asian people, like we have to practice like just audacity like wanting things, and it's tough, like because coming to the industry, there's not a ton of us. That's why, look, like Johnny, you're like senpai to us because like you're in this like high level position, and we're like, oh my God, like like an Asian person in that level, and that's amazing, and that's inspiring for us to set our heights or our sights higher, because you exist. So no pressure, but no, truly, it's like it's very inspiring. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I think that like I never really want to think in terms of ego. For me, my philosophy is there should be no ego because like maybe maybe it's my own bent, but I do believe that what we are in a team mentality in the animation industry. So I'm going to use a military analogy. If we're all part of the same platoon, we're all fighting the same battle, then the person to my left and right needs to be as strong as me. And if they aren't, then I need to lift them up. So if one has that kind of egoless approach to the work, and then it's not about who's the better artist or who's the better X or Y or anything. It's just about us kind of reaching the same goal together, fighting the same battle together. Our battle is usually budgets and schedules. That's our biggest battle. Corey, like it's always, there's never enough time, there's never enough money. And so we have enough to worry about without actually fighting with each other. So my feeling is always, anyone can do what I do. And I often say this when I talk with students at Capilano, or I'm running a boot camp or an apprenticeship. I say, hey, listen, my first few years, I sucked as being an animator. I really did. I was not good at all. And not to sound arrogant, but look at me now. I can't believe I'm in this position. I keep thinking that someone's going to either pinch me awake or tap on my shoulder and ask me to leave. Fill your personal belongings with this banker's box, Johnny. You're out of here. And I'm like, yeah, I had a good run. But it just is that kind of an excitement. And so I am very grateful, much like Corey was saying, for every day, because it is an honor and it's a privilege to be in this position. But I think anyone can do it, because if anyone is able to do it, if I'm able to do it, then anyone can. Because really, I'm not a fantastic artist in any stretch of the imagination. There's so many more people that are talented than me. And I'm not saying that just to downplay my abilities. It's just the truth. The thing that I always say to any new person that I'm welcoming to the studio is that 50% of the job is your artistic ability. 50% is only half the job. The other 50% is work ethic and professionalism, right? So I would much rather work with someone who had amazing work ethic and amazing professionalism, and was only kind of a mediocre artist. Because art as a skill can be taught, but the ability to communicate well with others, to tell people like, hey, listen, I'm sorry, this is going to be late. I need to give you the heads up ahead of time. That's great professionalism. That ability to say that the clock doesn't stop for me until I'm finished versus 5 p.m. Some people want to work a blue-collar approach where they go, okay, I'm going to punch a clock, I'm in at 9, I'm out by 5, I need to have an hour lunch. If that's the case, then maybe an artistic career is not for you, because we don't work by those hours in art. Our hours are, you start when you need to, and you end when it's done. So I don't want anybody to overwork. It's very important for me to have everyone who's in my division have a balance in their life. So I encourage a lot of times people to make sure that they're healthy and they're happy and they're seeing their friends and family and not sacrificing everything for their art. And that's, I know I'm rambling here, but I just want to say one last thing, is that when you start working in the industry as an artist, a lot of times it's difficult for us to separate ourselves from the work. Meaning we identify so much with the work, it's almost like it's a part of us. Like we're giving birth to an art, a piece of art, right? And if you wanna, if you say that this is my baby, and someone else gives you feedback which you don't like, critiques or anything else, then you feel like someone is trampling all over your baby. You are identifying too closely to your work. So my feeling is you have to give birth and then let it go. You have to let somebody else raise your child, because ultimately you work to your best of your ability, but to somebody else's vision sometimes, right? As writers, it's a nice place to be at the beginning of a pipeline where all of your decisions have a trickle down effect on so many different departments. I'm coming at it from a top down perspective in my view, but also from a soldier perspective as an animator. Sometimes you see all these decisions that are made in the writing room that finally trickle down to animation. You go, what are they thinking? This is going to be hell to do. So the point is that, if you separate yourself from the work, then you can always have a balance in your life, and you will never be affected by anybody's critique. Your value doesn't drop because someone doesn't like what you did. And if you are a shrinking violet, then it's important to distinguish yourself, your identity, your value, your worth from the work. And once you can do that, it doesn't matter what anybody says. You just go, okay, it's fine. And it's a very, very liberating thing to do. And it takes work. It's very difficult because as creators, we put a lot of ourselves into our creations, right? But ultimately, it has to work for everyone to be on the same page. And I'm rambling.
Thank you, Johnny. Not rambling at all. I wanted to follow up. So yeah, we're opening it up to questions. If anybody has questions who's watching, please send it in the chat. We have one question for Johnny. Following up, looking back, do you think it was more beneficial for you to start your animation career later in life, for all those filmmakers not starting right out of school?
Sure. Am I muted? No. Thanks, Lynn. That's a good question. I think about that a lot. Initially, when I first started in school, I thought that I kind of felt like I was behind my peers because they were all young and they all, started right away. And so by the time, I was in the animation industry when I was almost 30. And a lot of my cohorts were 20 years old to 22 years old. So I felt like the old man. Now looking back, almost 50 now, those handful of years doesn't mean that much. But when you're in your 20s, 8 years is a huge disparity in time and development. So yeah, there was a little bit of a feeling like I wish I started earlier. But looking back now, after having a really, really beneficial career, and I'm very, very grateful for it, I'm glad that I had the extra experience before, because the longevity I've enjoyed in my career is based on the fact that this is a decision that I made to leave other careers behind and throw my hat into the ring for the animation industry. Because if I hadn't worked as a youth care worker, as a person who worked with autistic children, a person who was thinking about becoming a police officer, all those kinds of careers that I ended up abandoning and going, no, my true love is art. Because I sort of dabbled in those careers, and I worked in restaurants as well for a long time, 14 years. I thought maybe if I just went ahead and tried art, then it would be fine, and I would find my way. The thing is, because of all those previous experience, I really feel grateful to animation, because I knew that this is my true calling. And when times get tough, like we had a global economic crisis back in 2008, 2009, where no one was really working. And I remember I didn't work for about 6 months, which is the longest I've never worked in the industry. And I thought maybe I'll go into massage therapy or something. I didn't know. I was grasping at straws looking for a career. Then I realized, no, this is your dream job. And if it wasn't for me entering the industry later in life, then I wouldn't have been able to say that. Maybe I wouldn't be in this industry now. And that is true. There is a pretty high attrition rate where animators and animation artists leave the industry after approximately 5 to 7 years because they get burnt out. And the reason why is because of sensitivity. What makes them great at what they do as artists also makes it difficult for them to deal with budgets and schedules, because that sensitivity makes us like feel things a lot more deeper than the average folks who aren't in art, for example, because we take things a lot more personally, you know. And so a lot of times, like, people who have like thought, oh, this is going to be my dream job, and I'm going to, right after high school, I'm going to go into animation school, and I start working, and they start working, and they get burnt out. They go, well, what else am I going to do? I never had that. So in a way, it is kind of beneficial to explore other options first. But everyone has their own path. So ultimately, either way can work.
Thanks, Johnny.
No problem.
All right. So I wanted to ask, taking it back to Asian Pacific Heritage Month, I think our community in the last couple months, it's been tough. It's been a tough time. And in this time of, pain and attacks and anti-Asian hate, I think our community has come a long way, come strides in coming together. And as Asian creatives, I wanted to ask both of you, how important do you think it is to have Asian representation in film and TV now, and how is that expressed in your work? So I'll go with Corey first.
Ooh, do I think Asian representation is important? Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, all of my personal projects and the manuscript that I wrote, hopefully will be published soon. Like they all center on Asian characters. I guess for me, it's also really important to show like an intersection of identities as well. So like Asian, gender queer, gay. It's tough. I mean, gosh, it's interesting because as I write these projects, I feel a tremendous sense of responsibility. For instance, like even just writing like characters that are Gaysian, I don't want to get anything wrong, whatever that means. And the thing, like, if you think about that, like these are things that you, like if you weren't a person of color, for instance, or you weren't queer, like you wouldn't even need to think about these things. So like why? But I think it's just unfortunately one other layer of burden that POC, so-called diverse creators have to think about. But I don't know. I think that once you can sort of get over that and just write these characters as authentically as you can, not thinking of them as political stances, but as human beings, which makes them inherently political. But like, I think just operating from that place, like letting them be messy, letting them be flawed, not being afraid to, gosh, I don't want to say not being afraid to offend anyone, but like, just not being afraid to like render them as three-dimensional human beings. And I feel like if I can do all of that, then like I'm aware that there are people out there who are hungry for representation and for a very specific kind of representation. And I think that's fair, right? Because like if you don't see yourself represented a lot, then like when you finally see that on screen, like you want to make sure that they get that right? But I think that if you can just put that out of your mind when you're constructing these stories and just telling these stories as authentically as you can, like if I can do that, then I think I've done my job. I don't know if that answers your question, Chris.
Absolutely. I think, the comedian Jenny Yang, she came up with a term, rep sweats, or like representation sweats, which is kind of like, as Asian creatives, we have so much pressure to represent the entire community through like one thing. And she was talking about this, when Crazy Rich Asians was coming out. But it's difficult. I think that we've been very lucky to see just a tiny trickle more of representation. So we don't have to have everybody, Minari was a Korean American film. It's okay. That is okay. And it can exist. And we don't have to all, like, oh, how about us? But it is tough. It is definitely something that you have to get over and kind of make peace with when you're creating. Yeah. Thanks, Corey. All right. How about Johnny? Should I repeat the question, or are you good?
Oh no, I think I'm good.
Mm.
I love Corey's answer. I think that's so true. Like we have to, you know. Okay, I don't want to get too political, but the all the Asian hate, it boils my blood. It's it's something I feel very passionate about. I think we all kind of, especially when we see our elderly being attacked, it's very difficult to not be moved to action because of it. These people are cowards. You know, that's what it boils down to. Why attack someone who has done nothing to you and who obviously can't defend themselves? Why don't they pick on someone their own size? I'd love to be a witness to something like that and be able to protect some of our older folks or people who can't defend themselves. And that's all I want to say about that. Oh, you can see my boxing gloves behind me, so maybe I shouldn't think. Anyway, the point is, I'm not a violent person, but it does really rile me up as a passionate artist. And as far as representation, for me, it's always been, and things have changed a lot. But for me, it's always been the case that I would look around the studio and see faces that look like my own. You know, other Asians, other Filipinos, and I've been really fortunate to be able to go to the Philippines, go to Southeast Asia, go to Malaysia and places like that, and see incredibly talented artists. You know, and so to me, I think of it more on a global scale of representation. We are already represented. We have been represented for a long time. It just depends on whether your gaze is to the east or to the west. You know, like even like tragic stories about like Bruce Lee and the TV show Kung Fu. I don't know if you all remember that show, Kung Fu. Starred David Carradine, but it was initially supposed to star Bruce Lee, and they weren't ready to have a Chinese American be the star of a television show, so they cast David Carradine instead, which is tragic. And we're not seeing that as much anymore. When I first entered the industry, there used to be an old adage of if you were Asian and you were a performer of some kind, like an actor, you could only fall into the 4G category. Anybody heard this before? You could either be a geisha, a gook, a geek, or a gangster. And that was it. Those were the only roles available to you. And now that's changed. Things are moving towards something better for us. There's a lot more roles where you see, even in TV commercials, where you see like interracial relationships or commercials that are kind of just based on people of color. You see Asian faces that would normally be a different face than ours, and we would see them and they go, oh, that's the leading man? Wow, that's amazing. Like usually we're kind of set to the background as character actors, for example. But from an animation point of view, I've seen a lot of representation over the years where people are telling Asian stories, and not just, stories that are based in the East, but diaspora Asians who are here in the West who are actually telling their own stories. And those are really gratifying. And I think it's become more popular now. And that's a wonderful thing where, Western audiences are open to hearing stories about our experiences, And as a person who was born in the Philippines and raised here, I feel like I have one foot in both ethnicities. What? Yeah, that makes sense, that metaphor. So it's sometimes tough because, I feel, I would used to describe myself as a coconut, kind of brown on the outside, white on the inside. Guy who likes heavy metal and watches Friends incessantly. But I still really love being Asian. There's so many things that culturally is really fantastic. And for us to be able to share those stories a lot more openly in this climate, that's a gift. And I think if we move closer and closer towards being authentic to characters, like Corey was saying, where you're not just saying, playing on the platitudes of what it is to be Asian, but we as Asians, we go through the same human experiences that anyone else does. It's not really about race, it's about being human. So if we write from that point of view, if we create from that point of view, then everybody gets to succeed, right? Because these stories are still really compelling and fascinating to tell. and it doesn't matter because it's a human race, not necessarily a Western or an Eastern race, to me anyway. But I am very grateful for where we are now and where we're moving towards.
That's really that's really interesting actually, because the more BIPOC screenwriters that I chat with, it seems like a lot more of us are less invested in stories. This is going to sound really obvious, but like stories centered on, not necessarily that they're not centered on race, but centered on like racial trauma. And it's like we just want to see characters being like everyone else and falling in love, which is interesting. But it's like, it's fascinating because I remember like when Get Out came out, like that everyone was like, oh my god, this is a social horror movie. They're talking about, like, they're drawing attention to things that like we don't normally talk about. And then suddenly after that movie, it was like there was this trend of just like whenever like there are going to be POC, well, specifically like Black characters, let's show them being traumatized. Let's show them, and it's like they're critiquing white supremacy, but in a way that I don't feel like a lot of BIPOC viewers are in. Anyway, it's interesting. I think listening to you, it makes me wonder if like how many of those projects were actually helmed, or how. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's just like I guess I really appreciate like the direction that we're going, where we're not centering all these POC stories on like within the context of like white supremacy. Right? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Corey, I think what you're trying to say is that,
I was trying to say something, yes.
Racialized stories are finally able to exist outside of a white lens. Like, we don't have to explain. It's like, this is what racism looks against Asian people. This is why our lives have been harder than yours. And like continually for Black folks, for Indigenous folks, that's kind of like the crux. And anybody who's applied for Arts Council funding will know that oftentimes you feel like you have to put your trauma on display so that people, you have to tell your life story and make it a sob story so that people are like, oh, I feel bad for this person. Here's money. But yeah, I think also that, it's a discussion that is happening in the racialized community, and we're coming out of that. And it's nice. It's nice that we don't have to just see it through white people's eyes all the time. Yeah. Thank you both. I think we have time for one more question, and this is an audience question, and it's, let's see. Oh, where do you both aspire to be for your careers in the next 10 years? And it specifically says, don't be humble, because they knew. Very Asian. Let's see. How about Johnny first?
I honestly, okay, I'll try not to be humble. I honestly feel that there's a lot more for me to contribute to the growth of Bardell, to the growth of the animation industry in Vancouver. I honestly feel that there is a lot of more exciting things that we can be involved with, and I really feel that I am seeing the end of my career more than I am seeing the beginning of it now. I'm kind of in the middle. So beyond my career, when I start thinking about, when it's time for me to end, I like to think about becoming an artist again, coming full circle. So my wife and I love to go to Italy. Before the pandemic, we'd go every year. And I have dreams of spending my retirement years learning how to sculpt. And so that's kind of my dream, is kind of working hard in animation, helping as many artists grow and develop as possible, bringing more and more amazing, fascinating kind of stories to audiences all over the world. And then, retiring well and so sort of focusing on me and becoming a sculptor in Rome or Florence, somewhere like that. That's kind of my secret dream. Shh, don't tell anyone.
That's like look, I might join you. Like, that's a great dream. Oh my god, like,
come with me.
Wow.
Let's go together.
Sure.
We'll hold
Yeah,
hands.
I'm just gonna like
come on, Corey.
stuff.
Be you and Christopher.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
and then
let's do
like
it.
drinking vino straight from the vine.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
that's no.
amazing.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
That does
Corey, how
sound
about you?
amazing. Oh, what do I want to? Oh, 10 years from now. I don't know. And then they said, don't be humble, which feels like a call out. Oh God, what? 10 years from now. I'll be canceled. No, I don't know. Okay, let me think. I think, I suppose if it got really quiet, you guys could still hear me, right? Okay. I feel that there's a very clear trajectory in the writer's room where it's like, again, like script coordinators, junior story editor, blah, blah, blah. So I do feel like in 10 years, like I think that I probably will be like in the producing sector. So like, yeah, wherever that is. I don't necessarily know. See, like I feel like some people who are asking this question want me to say like, I can picture myself as a showrunner with my own show. And I honestly don't. There are so many other factors, at play, and I think that like 10 years from now, there are going to be a lot of other like really talented BIPOC writers. I don't know that I wish I could say that, I'll have a show out there, but I can't. And I'm not trying to be humble. This isn't performative. Like I genuinely don't know if that's, I don't know. What I hope for though is I do have a book right now, and hopefully that'll be out in like a few years. And oh no, what happened to Johnny?
Did we lose Johnny?
He hated my answer that much.
No.
He just left.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what I did. My
I think
apologies.
your internet maybe just booted. I don't know. You didn't really miss much. I guess like I'm hoping that I can write more books. Maybe like I really love TV. I really do. I don't think like I've never really felt the need to be a showrunner just because I've been behind the scenes. I know. Gosh, it doesn't seem like a lifestyle that that I would like necessarily, like dedicating that many hours to something, that many sleepless nights, having it on my mind all the time. I don't know, like I feel, but so I want to stay in TV. I don't necessarily know that I want to run my own shows. Like I'm perfectly happy, like writing on other people's shows. I'm trying to leave my own mark in my own way, and trying to learn, their characters' voices. Now, what if I like create? If I were to have anything original, I feel like I would want to maybe advance a little bit more in book publishing, like publishing more like YA novels, like doing what Susan Nielsen does outside of TV writing. Like I feel like if I could do something within the realm of that, like that would be satisfying for me. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be humble to whoever's listening and whoever asked that question. That's honestly how I feel.
Honestly, that's a beautiful answer. I think
Thank you.
In the industry, it's so much about like go and military time and like let's get stuff done. But it's also good to know like, I want to be able to create at my own pace. I want to sculpt in Italy. I want to write children's books or books, and that's, I think, it's almost going back to kind of when you were a kid and what you wanted to do, how you wanted to hang out and just entertaining that. And I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, of course. Okay, what made you? Okay, so we have one more question. This is the last one. Let's see. Okay, we have an audience question from before, and it's when did you feel like you found your voice, or what made you unique as creators?
Corey, please take this one.
When have I found my voice? Actually, I really like that question, Mayumi. I think that it was probably through writing for prose. So when I was an undergrad, I was an English major, and my friend kind of signed me up for a creative writing class. Like I didn't want to take it because it sounded kind of lame, but I did it, and then it was weird. Like I came out of that first class, and she tore apart everyone's short story, which was kind of funny and hilarious. But like, and she tore apart mine too, but I didn't really care. And then by the end of the program, weirdly something just clicked, and I can't really explain what it was, but like maybe it was because I was reading a lot of I was gravitating towards novels with a very specific narrative voice, but suddenly like the very last thing that I wrote, like it started, it just felt right, and I don't know, it just felt intuitively like this is just naturally how gosh, it's like, oh, who was that? Was it a sculptor? Was it Michelangelo who was like, like you feel like the statue was already inside of the marble? I might have just made that up. I don't know, but like that's how it felt like with me when I was writing it. Like it was like, oh yeah, like this is just the way that the story wants to be written, and sometimes I try to bring that into my screenwriting. But it's weird because okay, this is the paradox of like writing for TV though, because like you train and you write your own pilot and then you use that as a sample, and at that point you feel like you kind of understand the craft in your voice. But then once you're staffed in a room, you're not writing in your voice anymore, you're trying to write in the showrunner's voice. And so in a weird way I had to rediscover my voice that way. Like how can I still write in this other in the showrunner's voice, but then like in my own way? And then so that was like kind of rediscovering your voice. And then when I was promoted to executive story editor, like now Susan is having me like be on set, like attending production meetings, like Corey, what do you think this bag should be? Like what do you think this knapsack should look like? What do you think the sign should look just like? How do you think that these actors should be performing these lines? And like in a weird way, that's also, and it was interesting because like I was really, I didn't really, I felt really uncomfortable and out of my element at first. And Susan was like, you just have to find your voice on set, right? And it's like, that's true. Like you have to rediscover your voice there as well. Because you don't really think about I don't think about these things when I'm writing, right? Like I think I have a vague sense of how I want these actors to perform, but I don't think I have, like, it's different though when you're on set and you're hearing it and yeah, you're kind of like adjusting that based on what the actor can or can't bring. Except on Family Law, because they're always amazing. But it's yeah. So that's kind of it. Yeah. So when did I feel like I found my voice? I don't know. I think it's like an ongoing process, especially in TV writing, where so much of it is like collaborative, and so much of it is adaptation. Like you just kind of I don't know. You feel like your voice is changing constantly. You know. Like for me, like I think that after reading all those Family Law scripts, reading especially Susan's scripts, like it's like, yes, I feel like I'm conforming my voice to hers, but at the same time, she knows what a Corey Liu script sounds like, right? So it's interesting. She's like, it still reads like it's in her voice, but it feels like it's my voice as well. So I feel that even after I leave Family Law, like I would have taken a little bit of her voice with me. So yeah, I think it's a constant it's a constant change, a constant adaptation. And I don't know, for me, like that's actually kind of exciting to know that my voice doesn't just have to be one thing, right? Like it could be something different in like whatever room that I'm staffed in. I hope I answered your question, Mayumi.
Thanks, Corey. All right, Johnny, how did you find your voice?
Oh, well, you know, I always have these short films in my head that I eventually will want to make, maybe during my retirement as I'm working on becoming a sculptor in Rome. But a lot of times, like I have this, when I was initially collaborating with my scriptwriting partner back in the early 2000s, we'd always want to kind of have these stories that were based on movies and television, kind of parody type stories. And then recently I was talking with him, and we were sort of rehashing some of these ideas. We both realized, you know, like that was 15 years ago, and we've grown so much. So similar to what Corey's saying, you kind of draw upon your experiences and who you are, your identity as a person, as an artist, grows and develops and changes. Sometimes it distorts, sometimes it actually becomes something more beautiful. And you really draw on other people as other artists and other life experiences you may have gone through. So the stories that I wanted to tell when I was, you know, like 25 is completely different than now. And so whether or not, you know, I've found my voice, I think similar to Corey, that voice develops and changes and grows. And I think it's important to kind of be open to that kind of discovery, that organic change that happens, because you see that with a lot of like filmmakers, like directors and stuff in live action. You know, if you look at Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets versus The Irishman, totally different style of storytelling, and that just because of the growth of an artist. So I don't know if you really ever do find your voice as an artist. I think you just have to be open to the experience and draw from them. And I think all experiences are good, like whether you're being inspired or whether you're being brought down. There is a lot of beautiful art that can come from depression and anxiety and stress. It's incredible. I think that's when we as artists become the most creative. So I sometimes kind of celebrate secretly when something bad goes wrong for me, because I go, I'm going to turn this into a beautiful story because I'm going to remember this pain. And I think that's incredibly important, because it can't all be sunshine and roses. So finding your voice, it should be based on one's experiences and one's openness to welcome them and allow yourself to have the voice change and grow over time.
Do you feel, sorry, can I ask one
No.
question? But do you feel like, and this is like for both of you, the more that you grow as an artist and the more jobs that you get, like, do you still find that when you look back at like because you mentioned childhood, Johnny, and I think you did too before, Chris, but like, do you feel like there are still things that you as like your inner child artist, like things that themes or aesthetics that you gravitated towards when you were younger that you still that still resonate now, even with all these new life experiences? I don't know, like, it's because I guess I'm just thinking about Little Mermaid, like for whatever reason, like that terrible misogynistic Disney movie, I still love it, and like I'm still drawn to like that melancholy for some weird reason, and I think it's still kind of, I don't know, it's like I think they say that like when you listen to music at a certain age, like for whatever reason when you grow up, like your brain is still into like it, yeah, like you're still into like the same cadences or melodies or whatever. Like I guess I'm just wondering if it's the same for like your voice, like because we were just saying that like it changes and adapts, and that for sure is true. I just wonder if there is like a core that I don't know. I don't know.
What do you think, Christopher? I'm curious to hear how you feel about that.
Yeah, Chris.
I think absolutely. Like, I think that the stuff, like, you know, I grew up watching a lot of anime and also a lot of Jurassic Park because I love dinosaurs. And I think there's a bit of like whimsy and like playfulness, and that definitely resonates in my creative, if not directly in the themes and like the genre, then just from that perspective, like writing coming of age stories, writing stories from perspectives of a younger me. I think, you know, like even just thinking about how raw and formative high school is, and writing stories from feelings and emotions that were from that time too. It's kind of like almost with what Johnny was saying. It's like, those moments that reverberate throughout your life. I think that definitely forms your voice.
I agree. Completely, yeah. There is a fundamental structure to your identity that never really changes, and you kind of build upon it. So yeah, I don't think that like your identity is static in some regards. Some of your core identity is never going to change. It just sort of grows and develops in a different way. Like, for example, the sacrifice my parents made to come here, to move to Canada as immigrants. That sacrifice is never lost on me. It's always going to be part of my identity. Like every waking minute that I have is about gratitude for my parents' sacrifice to move here. I would probably still be in the Philippines struggling, but now I get to enjoy the fruits of their sacrifice, right? So when it comes to like anything creative, there's always that whisper, that ghost of what they've done in the past that kind of seeps into the kind of stories I want to tell sometimes. So
yeah, I think another
sorry
part
for bringing us all down. Oh boy.
No.
I love that. I don't know. I think that's very appropriate.
extremely. You're the best son here, Johnny. Well done. You won the award. No, absolutely. I think actually, I think that's all the time we have.
Yeah.
So,
That was fun.
yeah,
was a lot of fun.
it's been amazing. It's been so lovely meeting you both.
You too.
You too.
Yeah, let's go for drinks when like things go back to normal. I'll come
I
over
would
to
love
Vancouver.
that.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be
yeah,
amazing. That'd be so
Yeah.
fun.
yeah.
We'll all have
But
a group hug and scream in each other's mouths.
We should definitely do that.
that's the takeaway from this. That's how you make it in Vancouver, guys.
That's
But
right.
anyway,
Speak
I,
moistly, everyone.
Speak moistly.
We're almost there. One more vaccine and we're almost there, right? Almost there, guys.
That was
So
the whole
close.
point.
all right. Thank you so much to Corey and Johnny for joining us here. Thank you, Vav, for having us at BIPOC TV and Film, and I'm going to pass it back to Regina. Bye, guys.
Bye, Christopher.
Bye, Chris.
Hi. Oh my God. So impactful and very funny, right? And I hope this conversation will inspire you to think about your next step and your action plan. So thank you again to our special guests, Corey, Johnny, and our moderator, Christopher, and also our co-presenter partner, BIPOC TV and Film. And thank you for everyone tuning in this afternoon or evening. So before we go, just a few more highlights that I would like to share with everyone. So as you know, our festival is coming up soon in November, and we're still calling it open call. The open call due date is June 5th. So it's one more week. And get your things ready and submit it. And check out vef.org to get more details on how to submit it and submit film freeway. So again, and if you like what you just saw, tell your friends, tag us at VEF Vancouver on social media channels, and then hashtag VEF industry, and then continue to join our conversation. And so one more thing, we're entirely organized by volunteers, a group of volunteers, and make a donation to vef.org. Again, thank you so much to our creative producers as well. Arlo, Nash, Mayumi, Joshua, Lin, and then our tech operator at the back end, handling, oversee this whole show for us, Jonathan, and our social media specialist, Jocelyn, and the other VEF volunteers for making this happen. So we'll see you all again tomorrow. We have 2 more panels to go. Dialogue with the cast of Kung Fu at 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. And then moving from shorts to feature at 2 p.m. Pacific time and 5 p.m. Eastern time. So you have a good day. See you later. Bye.